Hi, I'm Sharon Spangler and welcome to Reno TV. My guest today is Dorothy Nash Holmes. She is one of the two new Reno Municipal Court judges, and you have such an impressive resume. I am just amazed at all the things that you have done in the judicial system. Dorothy was the first female Washoe County District Attorney in Washoe County. Wow, that alone is just incredible.
And still the only one, so.
And still the only one. That's right. Yeah. And I'm going to go down my little list here. Dorothy is also a former federal prosecutor in San Francisco and Reno who specialized in international narcotics traffickers.
Exactly. That was a pretty exciting job. That was with the, what they called the Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Force. It was a special program that President Reagan created. He created 13 task forces all around the country, just in 13 places, to focus on the international smuggling, narcotic smuggling into this country. So that was exciting. I did that in San Francisco, and then I came here and did that in Reno. And the big case, most attorneys, most prosecutors don't handle only one or two cases a year, but that's how those operated because they were massive operations. I did the Mancuso case, which resulted in 20-some prosecutions and seizure of $20-some million, and pretty interesting.
I was a reporter at Channel 2, and I remember going up to Squaw Valley when they went into his house and seized his house, and he and his two partners had escaped.
Yep. That was a fascinating case.
Yeah, well, we actually got Ciro in his bathrobe, but right by the door he had a briefcase with tickets to Hong Kong and passports and cash and everything ready to go. His other two cohorts we had to catch in other countries, so it was pretty fascinating. Yeah, it was pretty exciting work.
From there, you were also working for the state of Nevada.
Yes.
She was the administrator for correctional programs, and you had a lot to do with setting up programs for inmates to rehabilitate them.
Yeah, I actually, after I was the DA, I did my own private practice for about 3 years, but I didn't care much for doing divorces and things. I said I could fight over kids and money at home. So I went back to the Attorney General's office, and I was in what they called their Special Prosecutions Unit, which was basically the death penalty unit and the group that did the appellate work on death penalty cases, the post-conviction, where the defendant's trying to say I didn't get a fair trial or spare me the death penalty or whatever. So I did that for 3 years, and then actually, Governor Gwynn at the time, his chief of staff asked me if I would come over to corrections and help the new director there, Jackie Crawford, because she wanted to kind of bring the prison system up to the modern times. And so I did that. I was her assistant there for a few months, and then we started creating the Correctional Programs Division, and it took us 2 sessions of the legislature to get the concept approved and the positions and everything. So then the last 3 years I actually served as the director. And we set up a whole network of programming, treatment, job training, set up a drug treatment program, a year-long therapeutic community down at Southern Desert, got a construction trades grant and taught inmates that were getting out of prison construction trades, and every one of them for 2 years got jobs in the industry. It was very fabulous. It was really a lot of work.
Lastly, Dorothy was in private practice when you were running for the judgeship.
I was, yeah, at the Ferendorf Law Firm here in Reno, actually. Ferendorf, Valoria, Oliphant, and Oster. I guess I should give them a plug. It's interesting because Tom Valoria, one of the partners, worked for me when I was the district attorney. He was one of my best prosecutors, and then 12 years after I'm out of that office, he marries my niece and becomes my nephew. So
wow.
That's really interesting, yeah.
Well, Reno is a small town.
It is, it is.
And Dorothy is a Reno girl.
Absolutely. Born in Washoe Med. I love it. I'm actually so surprised at how perfect and wonderful it is. What a good fit it was. You know, a lot of people during the campaign asked me, why aren't you overqualified? Why aren't you the U.S. attorney or something else? And, you know, I wanted to apply and work at this level because that's where people first come into the criminal justice system. That's where they first get their taste of it, either a good taste or a bad taste. And that's where you deal with people on a one-on-one human level, you know, and where you can stop some of the stuff like DUI and domestic violence if you handle it right at the beginning. And I love it. I love talking to the people. I love the way that the process works. I've really enjoyed it. And we're doing a lot of new things too.
That's interesting that you said that you can stop people when they first get into the process, because you were a prosecutor in the DA's office, did federal work, and then worked for the prison system.
Right.
So you really understand what happens when somebody starts going downhill, a kid who maybe starts by skipping class, doing drugs, hanging out with the wrong kids, and before he knows it, he's committing a small crime and it escalates.
Absolutely. I really think that's one of the perspectives that I bring to the court that they haven't had before. Because I have done felony work in every aspect of the system and then worked with the product afterwards. You know, people thought it was strange that a career prosecutor would be the head of inmate programs, but it's really just the other side of the same coin. It's giving people an opportunity to overcome their problems that create their criminality, and giving them opportunity. That doesn't mean they'll take it, but if you give it to them, many of them do. And so I really have a perspective on the whole system, and that really makes this level much more important to me.
And we can't afford as a community to just lock everybody up anymore.
It's ridiculous. The money we spend on some of the minor cases just absolutely aggravates me. I mean, you'll get someone that gets a citation for shoplifting, $4.39 eyelash curler. I had this case the other day. A person does not appear in court, so then a bench warrant is issued. When a bench warrant is issued, DMV is notified. When DMV is notified, their driver's license is suspended. So they'll come in or somehow or get pulled over, whatever, find their license is suspended. That does spur them to come down, but they don't have the extra money now because warrant fees go on top of the original fine amount. So then they have to come to court. They get set up in court again, and they come in for arraignment again. Sometimes they file a motion again. And if they don't do that time, another warrant goes out. They get arrested again. $127 a day to keep them in jail. The work of a prosecutor, the work of a defense attorney, the work of the judges, all the court staff, the jail staff, just to shower them, dress them, feed them, 6 hours of intake to even get them into the jail system. It's awful. It's nonsense, the huge amount of money we spend on some of these very minor cases. So we're looking at a lot of ways to sort of streamline things and deal with those in a different way.
I think we're all looking at ways to do things differently. And on that note, I understand that you've taken over the drug court. And as many people who are watching know, Municipal Court Judge Paul Hickman, who was just a wonderful man, died in the last 6 months, and he had worked very hard on a grant, and you're taking over that grant. And maybe you can talk a little bit about that. It's for people that have mental illnesses and also commit crimes. You can explain it better than I can.
Yeah, Judge Hickman applied for a $1 million grant, and he got it, actually got word of it just before his death in October. And it's 3 years, $325,000 each of the 3 years to enhance an existing drug court and create additional services in it. So what we're doing, it's called a co-occurring disorders grant, meaning you have a mental problem that occurs at the same time as your substance abuse. So there's got to be both drug or alcohol abuse and a mental problem. But rather than treating one as primary and the other as secondary or whatever, they're both treated primarily. So we've got a process now. We've put together a team, so we have someone from the city attorney's office on it as the prosecutor. We've got a legal defender on it, which is Keith Loomis, who's on contract to do defense work for the city. And we've hired a psychologist. Her name is Dr. Lisa Keating from Carson City. Her husband actually runs the mental health court as the psychologist for that court in Carson City. So we've got it in the family. And then our staff and our marshals in our alternative sentencing unit. So what's going to happen is that we will identify someone as a possible candidate for this program. Either the defender will see it, the prosecutor will see it, the jail will see it, or we'll see it, the judges, when they're talking to us in court. And we'll ask them a few questions, determine if there's some mental health history or perhaps should be, because I had an example today, a young man that is just so depressed. I've seen him 6 times in the 4.5 months I've been on the bench, and he can't get out of bed till 3 o'clock. He can't move, he can't do anything. And I really think he might have severe depression. So we refer him, and then our staff will do a screening, a short screen, a little test. It's about a 20-question test. And if the person answers those questions in such a way to indicate they need help, then Dr. Keating will see them next and do a full-blown mental health evaluation. And then she'll bring all those results to the team, which is the prosecutor, the defender, myself, and herself. And we will decide whether or not to accept this person in our COD court, our co-occurring disorders court. And if we do, then that person will start reporting to the court once a week. That person will be put in treatment with one of 3 treatment providers, Bristlecone, Quest, or family counseling, because they all do work with co-occurring disorders as well as substance abuse. They do the mental health piece. Not all counselors do. Some do one or the other, but not both.
So is there some crossover between mental health and using drugs as well?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And they have to determine there might be a psychosis that's drug-induced, but there really isn't an underlying mental health problem. So once you get them off the drugs, it's over. Some people, bipolar for example, can pretty much always be controlled by medication. The problem is getting them to get on it and stay on it. So in this grant we have money to pay for medication. We will use the court system to monitor it and make sure that they take their medication. We'll try to get them into housing and other services that they need. So I think it's going to be fabulous.
How does that tie in with what you're doing with the, I think you're calling it TRAIN, it's the serial inebriate program?
Right.
I met with the group that the previous judge had been meeting with for maybe a year and a half, and I just finally said, do it. Why aren't you doing it? Quit talking about it. Name it something and do it. And so we did. It's going to be called Treatment Resources Alliance for Individualized Need, and TRAIN. And the idea is we are creating a network of all these agencies and entities that already exist. The courts, law enforcement, social services, they don't call it Washoe-Med anymore, REMSA, St. Mary's, Renowned, and several nonprofits in the community, the Hawk Clinic, the Public Guardian. And we are connecting all of us in a common system, basically a real continuum of care. The idea is any one of those entities is a separate boxcar, and the person can access services through any one of those. But if they do, and they meet the profile that we've put together for eligibility, which is basically the serial inebriates, the homeless, the downtown repeat offenders, sometimes people that are just vulnerable and mentally deficient, but they don't have an overwhelming mental illness. And we provide services to them, and we're trying to keep them out of jail, out of the court system, and keep them from being what they call frequent flyers, who just come back again and again and again to the system.
With the intention of not only helping people, but really helping the system, because that revolving door at the emergency rooms and the jails, and REMSA having to go out and take folks, almost weekly or more than that. I mean, to see the same faces over and over again really costs the system a lot of money, and the community can't really afford that anymore.
Well, the University of Nevada is helping us on this, because the medical school, the people that know about the psychiatric issues, and West Care, they already do detox at the homeless shelter. So we're just connecting. We're connecting and continuing to do what we all do, but we're doing it together to try to avoid duplication of services, to assign a caseworker in the most appropriate place. It might be in my court through the marshals if they need a little persuading to accept the services. It might be social services. It might be in one of the other nonprofits if they need housing or whatever. But we're going to use the same paperwork, we're going to speak the same language, we're going to talk to each other, we're going to get these people, if REMSA picks them up, they're not taking them up to jail, they're taking them to wherever they should appropriately be. And just last meeting, we got the Public Guardian interested, because she's going to provide us the names of people that are in special group homes, so that if they're picked up on the street, the cop is not going to assume they're drunk, they're going to take them back where they belong and not put them in jail.
And how is municipal court itself, with its employees, being affected by this latest downturn in the economy?
This court has done a good job of, when positions get vacant, freezing them. So I think we'll get through this round without layoffs, because we've made so much cutting in the last few months. We've really been tight about, we've cut back on our janitorial services. I mean, every little thing that we can do. And so I think we'll get through this wave. But as people leave, their position is being frozen, and we're just having to redistribute the workload or do it smarter. In my court, we're starting to do more things by counter pleas, meaning you go in and you pay the money and you do it at the desk and don't have to appear in court. That shifts the work a little bit, but it also cuts down on court appearances and the staff time that has to go into that. So we're sort of reworking some of that because we've got to, as the services are going to drop as we lose people.
Well, I want to welcome you to the city of Reno. This is great to have you here, and I look forward to doing stories on all of your programs and coming over to the court and seeing you in action.
Well, we'll be doing our first COD court the middle of the month, and then all the paperwork is now being drawn up, and all the department heads are signing the agreement for the train and things like that. So that's going to be on. We actually started running some of this before we even had the systems in place because we wanted to design the protocol by seeing what worked and what didn't. So we've already got 5 or 6 people in the programs and are identifying the holes in the Swiss cheese, So, but I think it's going to be very effective. And let's hope it's cost effective as well.
Good luck to you with that.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
And thank you all for joining us on Reno TV.